Hello everyone. I would like to make a presentation of my paper, An Investigation into Plurilingual Language Policy and Education in Slovenia. The aim of this paper is to show the lingual diversity in Slovenia by examining the development of Slovene, the structure of language policy, and the implementation of foreign language education and curriculum at the primary level. The paper presents an insight into the ethnic and lingual diversity in Slovenia. The number of languages spoken in the world is in a constant state of flux, but it is estimated at between 7,000 and 8,000. The right to language is considered a basic human right. Whether a person is monolingual or plurilingual is determined by not only personal preference and competence, but by the language policies and language education in each and every country in the world. The desire to communicate and be understood is human nature. As globalization brings us closer to our neighboring countries, we find ourselves undertaking a second or third language to be able to communicate with others across the globe. Foreign language education is increasingly in the limelight, especially in countries where English is not the native tongue. All countries implement foreign language education policies and strategies that reflect each country's linguistic history, linguistic needs for the future, and attitudes of people towards language for communication and for job opportunities. Presently, in countries within the European Union, language policy is based on plurilingualism, native language plus 2 foreign languages. The Council of Europe has established a common standard for language acquisition and sets clear goals known as Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, usually known as CEFA. Members of the EU use these guidelines to formulate language education policies, achievement goals, levels, curriculum, learning materials, evaluation, and testing for language learning, teaching, and assessment in their own country. With increasing spatial and social mobility due to socio-economic and political reasons, issues regarding language education policy, foreign language learning, cultural identity, and harmony need to be addressed. Next, I would like to give you a bit of background about the Republic of Slovenia. In 1991, Slovenia became independent and was formerly known as the Socialist Republic, Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. To the north is Austria, to the northeast Hungary, to the south and southeast Croatia, and to the west Italy. It has a population of 2.08 million and is the 6th smallest population in the EU 28. The population consists of 83% Slovenes, 2% Serbs, 2% Croatians, and 1% Bosniaks. In 2004, Slovenia became an EU member. In the EU 28, Slovenia is one of the smallest countries with the lowest population density. The official languages are Slovene, Italian, and Hungarian. 95% of the population speak Slovene, 0.2% of the population speak Italian, 0.4% Hungarian, and other consists of 4%. According to Article 64 of the Constitution of 1991, in municipalities where Italy or Hungarian national communities reside, Italian or Hungarian shall also be the official languages. Slovenia is rich in plurilingual potential because of the presence of speakers with varied linguistic repertoires, the collective acceptance of linguistic differences, individual desires to learn languages as a result of geopolitical and economic context, substantial collective expertise in the field of language education and linguistics, As indicated by this view of language education under the auspices of the Council of Europe, Slovenia boasts high awareness of the importance of language learning widely, minority languages, the languages of neighboring countries, and less taught languages, providing a sound basic for linguistic diversification. In Slovenia, two types of education are employed. The first one being for bilingual education. On the Slovene Istria, which is on the coast of Slovene, they introduced the maintenance model. And it was introduced at the elementary school level since 1959, and then in 1980 for preschool and high school. The maintenance model is a model where the mother tongue is the first language at school, and the second language becomes a compulsory subject. And the second example of bilingual education is in Premier, and this is close to the Hungarian border. This also was introduced at elementary school level since 1959, and it employs the two-way model. The two-way model is where Slovene and Hungarian are concurrently used, and language switching is employed. And this means that both languages are of equal status. Next is minority education. The Romani community, the refugees, and the ethnic minorities in Slovenia all have the right to compulsory education under the same conditions as the citizens of Slovenia. They are given extra education for Slovene language, and they are also allowed to use their own languages when necessary. This table shows foreign language education in Slovenia by looking at the age, the year, and the language, as well as how many times a week it's studied. So for the first foreign language, it is an elective at age 6 in grade 1. It becomes compulsory in grade 2 at the age of 7. Languages included are English and German, and they are studied once or twice a week. For a second foreign language, it is elective between the ages of 9 to 12, but comes compulsory between the ages of 12 to 15. The languages included are English, German, French, Croatian, Italian, and Hungarian. And these are studied twice a week or 3 times a week. And finally, for a third foreign language, it is elective between the ages of 12 to 15. And the data is unavailable for when it becomes compulsory, but the subjects included are English, German, French, Croatian, Italian, Hungarian, Chinese, Latin, Macedonian, Russian, Serbian, and Spanish. Language policy is decided by the government, followed by educators, and is studied by children through the curriculums at schools. Language policy and language education do not function in a vacuum, so that social, political, and economic factors may easily outweigh the efforts of language planners and educationalists. The general public tend to opt for language choices that they believe will have a clear socio-economic benefit, so it is important to know what the general public is thinking and feeling. The questions of interest for this paper are listed below, starting with an overview of the survey, the number of languages spoken, the range of languages, place of learning, usefulness of foreign languages, target languages, age of acquisition, reason for acquisition, and minority support. So an overview of this survey conducted by the European Commission. It was carried out in the 25 EU countries at the time. 28,694 citizens responded to this survey on multilingualism as part of the Wave 643 of the Barometer. It was carried out by the Special Eurobarometer of the European Commission, and the results were collated in a document, Europeans and Their Languages 2006. This survey covers many aspects of language, including languages spoken and number, how languages were acquired, which languages are useful for personal development, and which languages are necessary for job opportunities. 1,030 Slovenians responded to this survey. There is a lot of data from this survey, but I have decided to include only two parts. Table 3, which language do you know well enough to have a conversation, excluding your mother tongue, and Table 6, the two most useful languages to know for your personal career and development. So first of all, let's look at Table 3. So this gives the statistics for EU 25, so 56% know at least one foreign language. 28% know at least two foreign languages, and 11% at least three languages. And this is listed in the order going down, and you can see here is Slovenia, where the arrow is, and in Slovenia 91% of Slovenes know at least one foreign language. 71% know at least two languages, and 40% know at least three languages. So this is much higher than the average of EU 25. Next, let's look at Table 6, the two most useful languages to know for your personal career and development. On the left hand, first of all, let's look at the EU 25 average. So for EU, the order of languages that people think are most useful are number 1, English, number 2, French, number 3, German, number 4, Spanish, and number 5, Russian. However, in Slovenia, number 1 is English at a much higher level. Number 2 is not French but German. And number 3 is French at a higher level than the EU 25, followed by Russian and finally Spanish. From the results of this survey, we can get a feel for how Slovenians think about foreign languages and how the language policies have filtered down through education and everyday life. The percentage of Slovenians who can speak a first foreign language well, even to carry out a conversation, is very high, and in the EU 25, Slovenia ranks 6th place. The percentage of Slovenians who can speak 2 languages is also high, ranking 3rd place. Furthermore, Slovenians who can speak a foreign language ranks 2nd place in the EU 25. Starting to study a first foreign language from an early age is considered very important. Not just one foreign language, but 2 are preferable. English is considered to be an important language to learn for personal development, job opportunities, and career development, with the percentage of Slovenians knowing English to be much higher than the average for the EU 25. Most Slovenians are learning their first foreign language at primary school and respond that this is where they improve their language skills, which reflects the language policy guidelines in place are being followed and are successful. The importance of knowing a foreign language is high, and this reflects how Slovenians are endeavoring to educate themselves in their country and their children. Next, I would like to talk about the results of the first European survey on language competencies, which was conducted in 2012. And this was a survey of linguistic ability by the Council of Europe. 14 EU countries participated, and they evaluated the language achievement of 54,000 high school students. From this survey, the results showed that for the first foreign language, Slovenia had 54% of their students who were independent or advanced independent level, and this ranked them at 5th. For a second foreign language, which is German, Slovenia ranked 9th. So from this survey about language competencies, language policies, and so on, the main results found were the importance of English language as a basic skill and as a tool for employability and professional development. And while all languages are not equally relevant when entering the labour market, linguistic diversity remains vitally important for cultural and personal development. Therefore, the need to improve language skills for employability in a globalized world must be composed with the promotion of linguistic diversity and intercultural dialogue. Next, I would like to talk about the findings and the conclusions that I have made from this research. Through history, Slovenia has continued to protect language and education. Equal rights to minority groups with language, culture, and education. Tailoring EU policies to suit the needs of its people. Citizens acknowledge and support the government's language policies. And within the EU, Slovenia has recorded impressive levels of education and competency. From the findings, I have found several topics for further research. The first one being post-Brexit. How will EU continue their language education when the only English-speaking nation has got out of EU? And in addition, the establishing of a One Asia. It would be interesting to introduce similar language policy in Asia, so Asians are all speaking different languages. Third, dealing with the minorities in Japan. An increasing number of minorities are living in Japan and are in everyday education. Japan needs to address this problem and deal with it. And finally, effective education, effective foreign language education. This is a continuing theme for my research. Finally, this is a list of references. Page 2 of the references. And finally, the web references for this paper. Thank you for your attention.